welcome to the HR and Leadership Podcast with me, Lee Martin. Each episode will explore current issues and challenges for leaders and HR professionals and present innovative, engaging and practical solutions. I'll be joined by a variety of business leaders, consultants and HR professionals who will share their experiences and advice. So if you're looking for new ideas, tips and insights to the latest HR topics, subscribe to our channel wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, so welcome to Stuart Riddington from Blue Water Consultancy, joining me today on this podcast, where we just wanted to talk about the topic that's quite topical at the moment in terms of how organisations deal with the constant change in the workplace, and specifically how they look to build resilience within the workforce, really. And Stuart, as an experienced consultant and a friend of 2J's, regular associate working with us, I'm sure you've got plenty of experience in this, but I don't know about you, but I'm seeing so much change happening in organisations these days, and it seems to be quite frequent as well.
I think there's a huge amount of change going on. Some of it's forced change. Just think I was having a conversation this morning with a very large brand in my area of the country that was talking just about having to make redundancies because of national insurance and the hikes that have gone up there and what that means for the organisation. Organisations wanting to change with technology and push forward in that arena, but also the generational gap and just the workforce style, approach, and what that means, and change for the way people interact with each other, etc. So that I think there are multiple fronts that change is happening, that if a workforce or managers or leaders aren't getting a hold of, it's going to be quite an interesting journey over the next few years.
I agree. I think, again, some of the clients that we've been working with and talking to the leaders and the managers as well as the staff, I think that amount of change, be it project work that is bringing about change, legislation, or even just the economics that organisation, that industry is facing, is causing so much anxiety within individuals, more so than maybe a few years ago, quite a few years ago, where I certainly remember in my early career, change or major change happening in the company that you're working for maybe happened once, twice in the year. But these days, in a lot of organisations, as you just mentioned, some of the issues, some of the changes coming their way seems to be happening on an almost daily basis. So with that level of change and disruption, the anxiety levels are increasingly high with individuals. So again, I guess a lot of organisations now, I'm seeing them almost from a recruitment point of view now, looking at how they can recruit individuals with resilience, which is almost a separate conversation, but also looking at their existing workforce. How do they develop resilience around that? And again, just keen to understand a little bit about your experiences and what you're seeing in some of your clients and what they're doing about it.
I think that the last 5 years, I think lockdown has changed things dramatically for organisations. One of the healthiest things that I've seen that's come out of it is the way people now look at mental health, look at stress, look at fatigue, mental health first aiders are regular now. That was never really spoken about. It was very bespoke beforehand. So I think organisations have really acknowledged and started to understand what it means for people to work, have that life-work balance, but also get the most out of work and enjoyment, as well as making sure that they're finishing projects, getting stuff done, meeting deadlines, etc. But I think there's been a really healthy emphasis on people now, and I think definitely the last 5 years has been a dramatic change in that compared to where things were previously. So I think people are becoming more aware, but I think, again, the divide in the way thought processes are going, there's still a long journey in, well, we've done this 20 years, so why are we changing? We've done this 10 years, why are we changing? Well, when I was an apprentice 40 years ago, just technology, AI is going to be huge moving forward. And, thinking about my lifespan, I've, as a teenager, the internet came into my world, and it's only really been since my teenage years that the internet's taken off. The change just in the way we function as humanity, let alone in the workplace with some of these things, is absolutely ginormous. So change in the workplace is going to happen, and building that resilience, that ability to adapt and cope and understand the change journey and taking people along that journey is incredibly important.
Yeah, I'm laughing away there about your technology and internet because I'm way older than you, Stuart, as we know. And I remember a world before mobile phones, let alone the internet kind of coming in, and that often gets a few raised eyebrows, showing my age there. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think again, from experience, it's that fear of the unknown. It's the fear of new things coming in. I was chatting to a group the other week, and we were talking exactly about that, about AI, and the fear of the unknown. Rumors going around that it's going to take our jobs, etc. I don't want to get involved with that because I don't know how to deal with it. That's AI. It was computers a few years ago in terms of the technology there. But I guess that kind of addressing those fears is important. I'm reminded by the Kubler-Ross change curve, which I know you're familiar with as well, in terms of the emotions that people go through when they're facing that change. And there is that anxiety and that kind of denial initially when change is brought forward. But then it kind of goes into that kind of apathy. But you've got to, these organizations with so much change going on, you've got so many of these people on this emotional roller coaster that it can start affecting mental health, as you quite rightly say. So being more and more aware of the strategies, if you like, or the techniques to kind of build some of that resilience and have that kind of glass half full approach that organizations need to deal with the pressures of change is important. I just wonder if you've got any experience of how do they start doing that then? How do we get organizations and managers and leaders to kind of develop some of that resilience in people?
It's a great question. We always say when we do some of our training that your biggest asset is your people and your biggest headache is going to be your people. Pouring energy and time into your people is so important from different perspectives. We use the T model quite a bit. So thinking, how the mind then controls the emotions, allowing that emotional intelligence to kind of kick in, but also then out of that, the actions. So what are the actions that then come out of it? But it all starts with actually, how am I thinking about myself? How am I thinking about work? How am I thinking about home life? And things have become very blurred. You know, the majority of people 5 years ago were 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, in an office and environment with people day to day, having normal conversations, working with people. You had a community there. Building that community when you're in 1 day a week or potentially 2 days a week, and the rest of the time you're on your own at home, or you've got the kids around, or you're thinking, oh, I'll just quickly put the washing in, or I've got to start making dinner early because we've got friends coming over. The kind of lines have been so blurred between home and work life. I think a lot of people struggle. A lot of people struggle with the kind of mental side of things days, to the pressure. You know, there's so much pressure with the economy, just at home as well. But because the worlds are so blurred with work and reality of my home life, that I think a lot of people just get caught up and don't have those opportunities to switch off, to stop, to actually allow themselves to think, right, that's work, let me park that till tomorrow. Or that's home, let me park that on the car journey to work in the morning, so I can start to separate, and my best version is at home or my best version is at work, because I've got those moments to breathe, to stop, to think, to kind of understand, well, what are the emotions? Are they healthy emotions, bad emotions? Are they driving actions that are healthy or not healthy, etc., in the workplace? And I think more and more in the organizations that we deal with, the conversations are HR based. So the amount of training that we're now doing on things like difficult conversations, explaining disciplinary channels and how they work with managers, so they've got the confidence to deal with them before they need to go to HR. These things are becoming more and more real. And we're seeing this definitely of just a lot more practical skills being needed by organizations to deal with people. And it's not big problems, it's the day-to-day real problems that people face.
Calling all HR professionals, leaders and managers, are you ready to take your workplace strategy to the next level? At 2Js, we get it. Managing people, driving engagement, and keeping up with ever-changing HR challenges isn't easy. But what if you had instant access to expert-led training, ready-to-use HR toolkits, and practical resources all designed to make your job easier. From leadership development to conflict resolution, employee engagement to resilience training, we've got the solutions you need when you need them. And here's something just for you. Use discount code podcast25 at the checkout for 25% off all purchases at 2J's HR store. No more wasting time on outdated processes. Visit 2jshrstore.com today and claim your exclusive discount. Because great HR isn't just about policies, it's about people. I think you're so right. And again, I'd echo those kind of experiences that we're seeing with some of our clients directly as well. I think almost going a step before that, getting it before the kind of and difficult conversations, a key skill that a lot of managers need to be applying in these situations is the ability just to listen to their people. So when there is this change going on and when there is this kind of fear factor, part of that downward slippery slope into kind of poor behavior or even kind of low resilience is the fact that their fears haven't been heard. So we often find and talk to leaders and managers about the importance of just doing that, finding the time just to check in with their staff, just to listen, just to hear empathetically what the concerns are about any change or any kind of alteration that's happening in their world. I think that's got to be a starting point, just to have that kind of acknowledgement that I hear you, I hear your concerns. I guess after that, then it's starting to address those fears and concerns. Again, from experience, that doesn't happen, that has such a detrimental effect on individuals going through any kind of change. And it's about making sure that they feel that they see a future and they see a kind of an end vision, if you like, to the change and what that means for them. So if they can relate to it and if they can understand almost the whiff factor, the what's in it for me if I come on board with this change, then they're more likely to accept it. But I think personally, it really does start with that listening. And as you just rightly said, so many managers and leaders are so busy with the kind of day-to-day business as usual activity that stepping aside and listening to their people or even planning time or meetings to do that is often something they forget to do.
We talk quite a bit about coffee conversations and the importance of kind of the coffee conversation where you've got 2 minutes and you're just catching up over a cup of coffee while you're making it. They don't happen anymore because people aren't together in the same way anymore. So it's then going, well, how do we create those coffee conversations in a digital world or in a different world where I maybe see my team members once or twice a week or maybe once or twice a fortnight because we're not in the same office or in the same vicinity. And that's where those things are really important. Making sure that you're checking in on people. The odd, text just to say, hey, just saw the report you sent. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Got it on time and you absolutely nailed it. Made my life so much easier. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. All those little things mean so much, but in the busyness, of time management and deadline management, we forget those small things that actually are really important to people. And we always laugh when we're talking with managers about how we sort of say to people, put your hand up if you're actually doing your job description. And there's never a hand that goes up because people never go into management or further up the ladder just to do their job description or stay doing the same thing. It evolves so quickly and your time gets absorbed so quickly that we forget if our best asset is our people, are we making time for our best asset? We talk about sweating your assets, but are we investing in our asset, which is our people?
Yeah, I think the flip side of that, I heard another story recently where, again, talking about the importance of managers and leaders being people managers. There was one particular manager that was dealing with the situation and turned around and said, well, I don't actually like people. Well, we're like a head in the hand moment. It's like, well, why are you a leader? Why are you a manager then if you don't have that kind of engagement and desire to want to help your people? And I think that's so crucial, particularly, like you say, in terms of the digital world and the remote world, finding that coffee time, as you quite rightly point out there, or that just acknowledgement of a person's efforts goes so far in terms of building a relationship and instilling confidence. And if we're talking about resilience in individuals, it's about making them feel valued. It's about making them feel listened to. It's about making them feel that they have an opportunity to discuss and kind of contribute to whatever the change is that's kind of coming their way. I think an absence of that empathetic leader, the listening leader, the leader that values their opinion and concerns about their welfare really does have a negative impact on the resilience of those individuals.
And I think it's really interesting that the generational gap and divide, I would say, is one of the largest there is out there at this moment in time. So there's a new generation of leaders, managers coming through that have gone through 5 years post-lockdown now. A couple of years of pretty much lockdown. That's 7 years of someone's early career. So potentially we're talking now someone that's in their early 30s and they've never understood what it meant to just be in an office environment with people, or to be able to say, "Oh, how you doing?" Or, "Oh, can I quickly ask you this question?" Or, "Oh, I've got an open door policy with my office," because the office doesn't exist at all now. So I think all those things and how we deal with that, and someone that's in their 50s compared to someone who's in their mid-20s now, that difference of understanding, thought process, mental health, understanding, all those aspects are so different these days that actually there's a big divide in the way the office and cliques and cultures are now created. And if we're not intentional in how we are creating our structures, our systems to support our people, other people will create that internally, and then it won't be best practice. It won't look how we want it and it should be looking.
Yeah, I totally agree. And some great points there. I think it's one of the things that is almost taken for granted that as a leader, there's an assumption that you've got the same reference points as your team, and you quite rightly point out that that's not always the case. And again, your credibility as a leader or a manager gets massively undermined if you don't have that kind of same language, same experience, or the ability to be empathetic to those with different kind of backgrounds or different experiences. So I think all of those things kind of are important. And when we're talking to leaders and organisations that are struggling with this ability to ensure there is resilience in their workforces, I think it, for me, fundamentally stems to the leaders' actions and how they need to take accountability and responsibility for the impact that they are having on their workforce. I think fundamentally with any kind of change management training that we do, we talk about we need to listen and we need to understand, etc. And depending on what the change is, to help break it down into bite-sized chunks for people to digest and kind of come to terms with. And anything like that is really about taking people on a journey of the change process and helping them to have small wins and go through the process of change and acknowledge and accept the new environment or the new future, and do that in an incremental stage. And the manager's role in that is crucial at every single bite-sized chunk, just to reinforce, to praise, to reward, and to kind of make the individual feel appreciated. And I see where that's not the case, and a huge change is kind of implemented, be it organizational restructure, products or processes, etc. It doesn't matter what it is. If the change is too big, that has a huge impact on people's ability to take it on board. I mean, you all know as well as I do, in terms of stress, you get the eustress, which is fine, but too much stress on an individual, then you start getting into the mental health issues, absenteeism, etc., etc. It's a can of worms potentially if they don't get that change process correct and break it down appropriately.
And I think it's understanding, we all need to move forward. We all need to change. We all need to grow, diversify, and markets and arenas have dramatically evolved. And if we're not evolving with them, the business shrinks, grows, potentially folds. But how we manage that change, and a step change is a big change, and you're allowed to do those. That's absolutely fine. However, it's understanding I can't do 10 in a month. I can't do potentially 10 in a year. I need to go, look, this is the big change, but then how do I break that down? And rather than a big change, happening in a month, how do we make it happen in 3 months, but take those steps along the way, just incremental steps to go, look, this is how we're going to get there, and understand people are interested in the people side of it and the why, not necessarily the giant steps. One of my favourite sayings is, "How do you eat an elephant?" And
Yeah.
it's one bite at a time. And it's the same with
Absolutely.
change. How do you change an organisation? One small step at a time, and you will change the trajectory of where it's going. But you can't do it overnight, because your best asset, your best thing is your people. You've got to take them on that journey. You've got to allow them the emotional space, the head space, well, what does it mean for me space, even so I'm going to have to change my desk or my chair and move to the other side of the room, or to the other side of the office, or to a new facility. All those things take time for people to absorb and take it in, but you've still got to keep them moving on that journey rather than pausing a journey. Because if you pause that journey, then actually it's quite dangerous for everyone, because people get used to that breather, that break, but you still need to keep moving them forward.
Absolutely. And again, some absolutely sound advice there, bringing experiences. I guess in summary, if we look to wrap this up, what would be your one piece of advice for any manager or leader listening into this, who's kind of experiencing from their team low resilience and needing to kind of upskill that? What would be the one final takeaway that you'd leave them with?
A great question. I think we map out, and we're very strategic on where are we now, where do we want to be, and where do we want to end up. So we map that out incredibly well. What we need to do is mirror that and map out our people journey. And I think that's so important to understand, where are they now? What are they going to struggle with? How hard can I push them? And where is that journey? So if we're going from A to D, and that could take 12 months, the people will take A to D over 18 months to 2 years. What am I doing before the change even starts? Preparing the people for that change, starting to sow in securities, to sow in vision, to sow in culture. And then on that change and the journey of the change you're wanting to go on, to build that resilience in, have you got some change champions that are going to be the ones that are checking in? Because if you've got 100 staff members, you can't ask every single one of them every single day, how are you feeling? What's going on? Have you got any concerns? That's where you need your change champions that are going to be on the ground, dealing with those emotional and people side of things, and building in that resilience day to day. You need to be focusing on the vision, where we're going to end up, the excitement. But as you've already said, celebrate those small wins all the way along, because those small wins create the momentum of change that you're after. But if we're not taking the people journey before, during, and after seriously, they're not going to come on that journey with us. And they're the things we need to really plan out. It's not just the business side, but it's the people side, and celebrating those wins and making sure that we've got people checking in on a regular basis. Because if people are behind you and they need to be with you, what do you then need to do to get them to catch up to where you want them to be? But as a leader, your vision should always be bigger and bolder than potentially your staff can handle. But you've got to do it in a bite size. How do you eat that elephant? One bite at a time. And that's what you've got to do. A strong leader knows that resilience comes through, the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. And that's what they want you to do. They need hand holding all the way through. Even if you're doing it through gritted teeth going, come on, we need to be further along, you've got to take your people with you. But once you've got your people buy-in and they're with you, it will go so much faster and quicker. But the people's strategic side, so important.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely right. And some fantastic comments and advice there, Stuart. Much appreciated. Hopefully benefiting those that are listening in that are facing that kind of situation. So thank you very much for your insight and advice, Stuart. Fantastic to talk to you as always.
Very well.
Again, look forward to seeing you on future podcasts and sharing those words of wisdom with us in the future. But for the time being, thanks very much.